So, Kimmel is back. Donald Trump is on a rampage. There's been a shooting at an ICE facility, and his administration continues to lie and spread fear. It's been a hell of a day, dear friends. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. I am so glad all of you are here. We got a lot to cover. Let's jump in. Hello, damnation. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. I am so glad that all of you are here. It has been a hell of a day in this upside down country that we call America. But we begin with the return of Jimmy Kimmel last night. It was fantastic. Jimmy Kimmel did exactly what he needed to do with the platform and the eyeballs that he had last night. Here, he said, you almost have to feel sorry for him when talking about Donald Trump. He did his best to cancel me. Instead, he forced millions of people to watch the show. That backfired bigly. He might have to release the Epstein files just to distract from this now. It was phenomenal. And I want to play you this part that I thought really hit the nail on the head, which was Jimmy Kimmel lifting up the voices that, if you have been listening to the Danielle Moodie Show for the past week, if not longer, hopefully, that I had played clips of Candace Owens and Ted Cruz and others in Trump's orbit coming to the defense of Jimmy Kimmel and truly coming to the defense of free speech. And that we cannot live in a country that, regardless of people's political affiliations or your opinions, where free speech is under attack. And what I thought was really great is that Jimmy Kimmel used this moment not to just thank those that boycotted and cut the ties to Hulu and Disney Plus, and his friends that came out in the Hollywood sphere to support him, as well as the viewers, but that he thanked those that hate him.
Most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. People who I never would have imagined, like Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, Candace Owens, Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, even my old pal Ted Cruz, who, believe it or not, said something very beautiful on my behalf.
I hate what Jimmy Kimmel said. I am thrilled that he was fired.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say,
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like. That will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely right. This affects all of us, including him. I mean, think about it. If Ted Cruz can't speak freely, then he can't cast spells on the Smurfs. Even though I don't agree with many of those people on most subjects, some of the things they say even make me want to throw up. It takes courage for them to speak out against this administration, and they did, and they deserve credit for it. And thanks.
I thought that was classy. I thought that it was smart, because what we should all care about in this moment is not whether or not the people that we like are being attacked for articulating their truth and using their platforms to do so, but whether or not free speech in general is being attacked. And whether or not I agree with Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or what have you, they do have the right in this country to say what they want to say, so long as it doesn't incite violence and so long as that it's not hate speech. But it's not hate speech just because I don't like it, right? And so I think that it is incredibly, incredibly important to lift up those voices, because then this was the response from this petty, small-handed, small-minded, big-bellied man. So here is Donald Trump, who, by the way, those in MAGA world tried to convince us that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. They had nothing to do with the removal. And then Donald Trump said, I ordered the code red, right? He always says the quiet part out loud. He always confesses to the crime. I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Something happened between then and now because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? He is yet another arm of the DNC, and to the best of my knowledge, which we know he has none of, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. What? I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. So, for all of those conservatives that got on television, that got on their podcasts, that said that Donald Trump had nothing to do with the firing of Jimmy Kimmel and that he wasn't threatening, right? He wasn't using his power of the presidency and the FCC. He wasn't trying to weaponize that. It just so happened that the person that he hates was taken off the air after the FCC chair, Brendan Carr, said to ABC, you want that license? Not sure if we're going to make that work for you unless you do us a favor, though, right? So here's the funny thing. Even when pressed, folks, even when pressed on television today on CNBC, Jim Jordan, who is a fucking moron, but Jim Jordan was asked about whether or not he felt that, is the president pressuring ABC? Does this sound like pressure to you? He couldn't even disagree.
Congressman, can I just read you something? This is what the President of the United States says. And you tell me whether you think this sounds like coercion or not. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative.
Well, I mean, I don't think you can say this is the pressure from the government because ABC put him back on. I didn't stay up and watch it, but I think he was back on last night. So how is that the government's taking him off the air when in fact the ABC themselves, Disney made the decision. We got two of our people we do business with, Nexstar and Sinclair.
Right, I'm saying, but
a number of affiliates.
But that does sound like pressure from the government, right? But there's pressure. It may not be successful pressure, but it's pressure from the government.
I guess you can say maybe some, but I don't think that's what drove this. I think
maybe you can say that there is some. So now pressure only looks like successful pressure. So if Jimmy Kimmel had remained off the air, then I guess according to Jim Jordan's analysis of the situation, then the government would have been what? Green lighted in terms of the pressure campaign that they put on using their mobster tactics of trying to threaten the network. Like, folks, when you listen to the hemming and humming of Jim Jordan and the stuttering of his words, it's because he can't find his way out of the bullshit, right? He's like, yeah, I guess. I mean, if you look at the words, we're delivering to you exactly what it is that the president of the United States put down on his broke down social media platform, right? He said we were successful the first time in extorting ABC for $16 million. This time seems a bit more lucrative. Let's see how we do. Folks, but what it turned out that, again, as Jimmy Kimmel said at the opening, if Donald Trump's work here with regard to putting all the focus on Jimmy Kimmel and rousing people from their slumber about the ways in which their civil liberties are under attack. If the goal was to make people dislike Jimmy Kimmel, if the goal was to keep people in the dark of what you're doing to the Constitution of these United States, well, you're a failure. But we already knew that. But I think let's let the numbers do the talking.
Huge, absolutely huge. What are we talking about here? Well, let's take a look at YouTube views, Jimmy Kimmel Live video views. The 6-month median, the median video only gets 240,000. Look how many views Tuesday night's monologue already has. 6.7 million. That's over 25 times as large as the median Jimmy Kimmel video normally gets. And I was looking, it is by far the largest video in at least 6 months. So if Donald Trump's idea was to give Jimmy Kimmel more press and more viewership, he absolutely did so. Of course, I don't think that is what Donald Trump intended to do.
Do you have any sense beyond YouTube of just how big his appeal may have been? Like, a lot of people wanted to clearly watch this from all facets of not just in America, but you know, this is from around the world.
That's exactly right. So we got this 6.7 million. I will note that that number is up already about 700,000 from the last time I checked, which was about an hour ago. But take a look here. Record high Google searches last night for what time is Jimmy Kimmel on? You wouldn't have to check what time Jimmy Kimmel was on if you were a regular viewer. The reason that people were checking what time Jimmy Kimmel was on, because he was potentially pulling in a lot of viewers who normally didn't watch. And get this, it was up over 10,000%. My goodness gracious. This, of course, dates all the way back since 2004, basically since Jimmy Kimmel was first on the air. So no, it was not just on YouTube. There was a ton of interest, what we're talking about nationwide, worldwide, in terms of what time was Jimmy Kimmel on, because I don't normally watch him, but maybe I want to take a gander because maybe I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
Jimmy Kimmel himself sort of said, look, when Disney did this, I went to them, I didn't like it, but he also said, thank you to Disney for keeping his show on. Is there any indication that Disney has something to be happy for? He even plugged, go to Disney Plus, here's how to, you know, as a joke, but here's how to like re-up your subscription.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of people, especially on the left, who are upset at Disney for suspending Jimmy Kimmel. And we saw Google searches last week for boycotting Disney and canceling Disney Plus go way up. But take a look here. Google searches versus last week's peak. Boycotting Disney, down about 75% as of last night. How about cancel Disney Plus? Down about 75% from its peak. So the bottom line is this was great for Jimmy Kimmel in terms of what we see so far on YouTube. It's probably going to translate to the ratings. And also Jimmy Kimmel's return is good for Disney because all of a sudden people aren't so interested in boycotting them or canceling their Disney Plus subscription. So it ends up being pretty decent for Disney's bottom line, bringing Jimmy Kimmel back to the stage.
We'll see how it goes throughout the many weeks that he is on. Harry Enton, it is always a pleasure to be here with you.
The pleasure was all mine.
Harry Enton is one of my absolute favorites. I could watch his videos all day, every day. But nonetheless, the point being made is that when I last looked at Jimmy Kimmel's numbers, they were at 15 million. So that was this morning when CNN was doing their data dump to see how well Jimmy Kimmel's monologue was last night. It is at 15 million views and ticking. So again, Donald Trump showed himself to be what we all know him to be, a big, huge, fat failure. Because again, the more attention that you provide something with, the bigger the viewership with. And like I said, Jimmy Kimmel did a phenomenal job last night because he talked about the First Amendment. He talked about the attacks on journalists. He talked about the fact that, look, this isn't about me. This is about being able to live inside of a country that allows a show like this to exist, and that no one should have to succumb to pressure from the president of the United States or be threatened by a supposed independent agency for things that are said. That is what separates the United States from everywhere else. And so for those that have still been walking through a place of slumber or believing that the authoritarian push that Donald Trump is doing isn't really happening, well, Jimmy Kimmel woke a lot more people up. And the fact is that, look, Jimmy Kimmel, he'd be fine He's a rich white man in America. He's going to be good. But what he also brought attention to was Donald Trump gleefully applauding the loss of jobs for Americans because it wasn't about him. He has 200 people that work on that show, 200 families, right, that would lose income if he's off the air. And Donald Trump gleefully applauds this at a time when he has created a shit economy from the one that he inherited from Joe Biden. So he was able to use this night, his return, as an opportunity to air out Donald Trump's autocratic dreams and autocratic intentions. And so the moves that he has been making, or he thinks that he's been making undercover, well, because of his petty, thin-skinned ass, he brought everybody's attention to what he's doing. He's not even good at being a Scooby-Doo villain, for the love of God. Speaking of villains, y'all, I brought this up yesterday, right, before this shooting took place, because I wanted to bring your attention to a very underreported story. And that is the story of the 1,200 men that have gone missing from ICE custody, from federal custody, after being transported supposedly from Ron DeSantis's alligator Alcatraz. There were 1,800 men in detention at that facility. 1,200 of them are now missing. No one is talking about this. And so today, here we have it. Detainee killed and 2 others wounded in Dallas ICE office shooting. Investigators said anti-ICE language was found on ammunition left behind by the gunman, who died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. An official familiar with the matter identified the attacker as a 29-year-old man. This is what is being reported. A shooter opened fire on a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility in Dallas, killing 1 detainee and critically wounding 2 others. The gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and on the ammunition, anti-ICE in blue writing, according to officials. No law enforcement, however, this is what's so interesting to me. No law enforcement agents were hurt in the shooting. The shooting was supposedly done, according to Kash Patel's FBI and according to Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security, that it was anti-ICE, Antifa, right, that did this shooting. Interesting. Because the detainees are wearing what exactly? I don't know, probably bright orange jumpsuits that show you the difference between who is actually in custody and who is not. And isn't it convenient that this supposed assailant also wrote anti-ICE? And I just want folks to think about this for a minute. When you think about those that are opposed to ICE, what is it that they usually say? Is it anti-ICE? Because I've actually never heard that phrase. No, they say fuck ICE or abolish ICE, right? It sounds to me as if anti-ICE is something that, I don't know, maybe ChatGPT came up with. Nonetheless, what I am saying, folks, is I don't believe a fucking word that comes out of any agency in this government. I believe absolutely nothing from this FBI, nothing from Homeland Security, and nothing that is going to come out of the mouths of these people who, after the murder of Charlie Kirk, before there was even an investigation, before we knew who the assailant was, use the same rhetoric that they're using right now today, because it couldn't catch on with Charlie Kirk, because within a day, right, we figured out who Tyler Robinson was. Tyler Robinson turned himself in. Tyler Robinson from a staunch Republican Christian family that loves guns, that voted for Donald Trump. So the rhetoric that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump tried to hype up and feed the public before they had any actual evidence in the murder of Charlie Kirk, guess what? It didn't stick. And now all of a sudden, Tyler Robinson is out of the news because he doesn't fit their narrative. So I guess, scratching their heads, I guess we'll try something else. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying I don't believe a fucking word from people who've made it their career ambition to show how well they can lie in front of cameras. Just saying. So, speaking of violent rhetoric, speaking of who is the one, which group is responsible for the amplification of violent rhetoric, I want you to take a listen to this motherfucker, Jesse Waters, who is the stupidest person on television, the dumbest. I want you to take a listen to what he said following the incident at the UN, where the escalator stopped and Donald Trump had to be carried by his oversized cankles by their own, strength up those stairs, and how they blamed the teleprompters, which now, lo and behold, we find out, guess who was operating the teleprompters? Oh, the White House. Guess who was operating the escalators? Right? The federal government. Nonetheless, on Fox, because they live inside of this alternate reality, they want to blame everybody else except the people that are actually responsible for what is happening. Just like MAGA wanted to blame Antifa and blame the left for the murder of Charlie Kirk until, of course, it was proven that it was one of their own, right? We know that the governor of Utah, he was praying for 33 hours that it was a foreigner, that it was, not one of us. But in fact, it always is. I want you to listen to Jesse Waters and what he says in response to Trump having technical difficulties yesterday.
And then they sabotage the teleprompter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an insurrection. And what we need to do is either leave the UN or we need to bomb it. It is in New York, though, right?
Yeah,
there could be some fallout there.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe gas it?
No.
Let's not do
Don't
that.
gas it. Okay. But we need to destroy it.
Did everybody just hear that? That Jesse Waters on national television said that we should bomb the UN because the escalator didn't work. And I just want to remind you that last week, Brian Kilmeade on Fox said that we should lethally inject homeless people. And then what followed that was the lynching of a homeless man. So they have the audacity to want to blame the heated temperature in this country on the left, calling out what is obvious to us that the right has been doing, led by Donald Trump, which is inciting violence. And you listen to Jesse Waters and you think that that was a funny joke, while all world leaders are in New York City right now and we're at a time of heightened political violence. You think that that's funny. But, don't worry about it, folks, because J.D. Vance and his permanent eyeliner are on the job.
And while we're all mourning and rooting for and praying for everybody who was injured at that ICE facility, and as far as we know, it looks like some of the detainees, in other words, some of the potential illegal aliens, were some of those who were affected. Look, just because we don't support illegal aliens, we don't want them to be executed by violent assassins engaged in political violence either. So we're praying both for our ICE agents, but also for everybody who's affected by this terrible attack.
And affected by, you mean shot and killed? You meaning critically wounded? What does it what does it matter? Their status as citizens or being legal, whether or not they were shot to death. And just again, I want to bring up, there are 1,200 men that are missing from ICE custody that no one is talking about. Now, is it possible? I don't know. Given what we've heard of those that have been released from these detention centers, is it possible, just throwing it out there, that maybe these detainees were in fact shot, but not by Antifa? Is it possible that there are more people than we know of, because we're assuming that the government is going to self-report, that are dying in ICE custody, whether it's from potentially trigger-happy ICE officials, ICE officers who are really overzealous about their jobs? And because, again, we're relying on these agencies to self-report, there's no way for us to actually ever know, until after the fact. All I'm saying is, folks, they want you not to believe your eyes and not to believe any evidence, but to believe their lying asses. And I'm saying, pay attention, because what we have learned through the South Korean Hyundai employees about their treatment in the few hours or the few days that they were detained, the treatment that they were experiencing, what we've heard happened at quote unquote alligator Auschwitz, what we've heard from other people about the inhumane treatment, the sexual assault, the beatings. Don't say, not in my country, because I want folks to understand that what Donald Trump is doing is as American as apple pie. He's just using new technologies and, the force and weaponization of government. But what did we discover recently over the years? Oh, I don't know, mass graves of Native Americans that were taken from their families and forced into boarding schools for corrective learning decades and decades ago, that were abused and killed and then just disposed of? What have we learned about the, 400 years of enslavement of Black people in this country, and how they were thrown into mass graves, beaten, tortured, and raped? We've just given new badges and new titles and new agency names to what America has done to those that they perceive to be the other, less than, or, 3/5 of a person. Don't let yourself fall for the rope-a-dope, folks. Don't let yourself say, oh, that couldn't possibly happen here, or that's not the country that I know, because I feel that those people who always find themselves saying, that's not the country that I know, you are telling on yourself and how little you know about American history. You are telling on yourself and how indoctrinated you have been to the lie of American exceptionalism. This is the history that they erase. These are the books that they ban. Donald Trump is not an innovator. He's an accelerator of American hate. pay attention and continue to call your representatives, continue to boycott, continue to call out what is happening. Because right now, as I speak, people are being beaten, people are being tortured, all because this lying ass administration has said that they are criminals. But we know that these are people, these are hard working people that are being kidnapped off of the street, that are being kidnapped from their jobs, that are being kidnapped from their schools. But because they happen to be brown or black in the wrong place at the wrong time, now they are being labeled as terrorists and criminals. And so we can treat terrorists and criminals however we want. This is why Donald Trump went to the Supreme Court and said, you know what? Give me the right to deport these people to these horrible, dehumanizing countries that have a myriad of human rights violations, because I don't want to have to follow the laws of this land that say that those people that are incarcerated here, they're allowed phone calls. They're allowed representation, food, medical treatment, sanitary conditions. Be careful in the way that folks are labeled, because that is part of the dehumanization project that Donald Trump has been at for the last 10 years. So we can treat these people any which way that we want because they're criminals. They are terrorists. They're Antifa. I am telling you that when this is all said and done, whether it is decades from now or centuries from now, the things that we will learn that this regime has done, the lives that they have stolen, the people that they have harmed, the generational damage that they have done, is going to blow our fucking minds. And it is happening right in front of our goddamn faces. So I love the fact, folks, that so many people got on board and cut the cord to Hulu and Disney Plus and got Jimmy Kimmel back on air because Disney started to feel the brunt of a boycott coming that they know that they're going to be unable to weather. I love that the people came together for this rich, white, cis man. But what I am saying is, we need to have the same fucking energy for the people who don't look like us, for the people whose language is different from us. Because the fact is, and let me say this unequivocally again, folks, if 1,200 men can go missing and no one give a damn, understand you will be next. They are testing the limits right now. They are seeing what they can do. They're seeing how far they can go. And the Supreme Court has given them a full-on green light. Just do your work. And by the way, don't worry about it. You have presidential immunity and you can give out these pardons like they're fucking goodie bags at a party. We have got to bear witness. That is our role and our responsibility right now. We have got to bear witness, and we have got to call out the depravity, the violence, the lies that are happening at the hands of this regime. Because we are all of those people. It doesn't matter if you're trans. It doesn't matter if you're undocumented. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim. It doesn't matter if you're Black. Folks, they are going to come for every single one of us. And if 1,200 men can go missing, so can you. and so can the people that you love. And do not kid yourself that if you are white, that you have the complexion for the protection. Don't kid yourself into thinking that, oh, I follow the rules, I follow the law, I'll be okay. Not when they are moving the goalposts and changing the laws as they fucking go. No one is safe. Switching gears for a moment, because I need some levity. This next story made me cackle yesterday. And it was this one. This statue was put up on the National Mall that showed Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein on Best Friends Day holding hands and celebrating their long-lasting bond. The plaque, a thing of beauty. This is how and why art and artists are so important. This is why Donald Trump hates comedians and hates academics and hates, right, culture. This is why they wage war against culture. Because artists will always hold up a mirror and reflect the times. This was brilliant. There's a new statue on the east end of the National Mall. It has since been removed, but let me tell you this. There's a new statue on the east end of the National Mall for Washington, D.C. residents and tourists to enjoy, showing two men frolicking, grinning wide, and holding hands, each with a foot joylessly kicked back. And the plaque said, "We celebrate the long-lasting bond between President Donald J. Trump and his closest friend, Jeffrey Epstein." A plaque at the bottom of the bronze sprayed installation reads, "A permit for the National Park Service will allow the statue to stay on the National Mall grounds through 8 p.m. on Sunday. The fabricator of the statue remains unknown, but it has artistic and thematic similarities to recent art pieces critical of the president." I love it so fucking much. Of course, it's been removed in less than a day. But, the images will remain everywhere. So, thank you. Thank you to the artists. Thank you to those that were brave to put this out. Thank you so much. Because again, everything that this regime is doing is about wagging the dog. It is about distraction from the thing that they don't want us to keep talking about, which is in fact what? The Epstein files. I got more bad news for Donald Trump too. I just love delivering it. Arizona Democrats win clinch bid to force Epstein files vote. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Adelita Grijalva's victory in a special election for a House seat in Arizona appears to give backers of a so-called discharge petition enough signatures to compel action. The bipartisan group of lawmakers appears to have the support needed to force a House vote on a measure demanding that the Trump administration release its investigative files on the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. Adelita Grijalva, a Democrat who on Tuesday won a special election for a House seat in Arizona, has committed to signing onto a so-called discharge petition that would force action on the measure. The petition needs the signatures of a majority of the House, 218 members, to succeed. And Ms. Grijalva is poised to be what? The 218th. And she said this: "On my very first day in Congress, I'll sign the bipartisan discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files." Ms. Grijalva said in a statement on Monday, "This is as much about fulfilling Congress's duty as a constitutional check on this administration as it is about demanding justice for survivors." Oh, dear friends, what a delight where we find ourselves. Adelita, the daughter of the late Raul Grijalva. Kind of a chef's kiss moment. So we will see, and I'll keep my eyes on whether or not and how long it will take for this to move forward. Folks are saying that it will, in fact, be about mid-October for her. She just won the special election yesterday. She will need to be sworn in, et cetera, et cetera. And then we will continue to follow that story. And then here is another one. Because again, the UN is happening this week. Another summit is also going on, and that is the Global Climate Summit. U.S. isolation, according to the New York Times, was on full display. At a climate summit at the United Nations on Wednesday, the vast majority of the world's nations gathered to make their newest pledges to reduce planet-warming greenhouse gas emissions over the next decade. Geopolitical heavyweights, including China, Russia, Japan, and Germany, were there. Dozens of small island states were there. The world's poorest countries, including Chad and Central African Republic, were there. Venezuela, Syria, Iran, there too. The United States was not. There are few issues on which the United States is more diplomatically isolated from the rest of the world than climate change. Trump's hostility to renewable energy, which he clearly broadcast in his, just absolute fuckery of a speech at the United Nations General Assembly, is at odds with the rapid construction of wind farms, solar arrays, and other renewable energy sources in a range of countries. Listen to this, because this even got me. The construction boom, the green renewable energy construction boom, includes even oil-producing giants like Saudi Arabia, which is adding solar capacity at a rapid clip. We are on the dawn of a new energy era, said UN Secretary Antonio Guterres as he opened the summit on Wednesday. So I just want you to think about this for a moment. That what Donald Trump's isolationism is going to cost the United States in terms of competition on renewable energies, that his backwards ass thinking is going to cost us our global standing, and it's going to cost us competition. Saudi Arabia is ahead of the United States in terms of renewable energies. If that is not like a complete and total mindfuck for all of you, it should be. Because they could rest assured holding on to their oil reserves and be probably good for several decades into the future. But they know that, guess what? Oil, once extracted, is not a renewable fucking energy. And at some point, they're going to tap out. So they have even gotten on board with what needs to be done in order to retrofit their country for the future. Not in America, though. No, we are headed right back to the dark ages. You know, because Carrie Lake and the rest of them are telling you don't send your kids to college. Don't get them all learning and with the critical thought and the books and stuff. I guess they all can just die of black lung like their grandfathers and their great-grandfathers, because Donald Trump instead, in the big bullshit billionaire bill, instead of putting money towards renewables, stripped all of that out and instead has put more money towards coal and big oil. And not even the oil-rich nations are doing the kind of fuck shit that Donald Trump is doing. Let that sink in. Which goes on, right, to my conversation earlier in the week about America being in its decline in more ways than one. And speaking of decline, So we talked about the U.S. attorney who was fired because they refused to bring up trumped up, and I mean that, pun intended, charges against Donald Trump's enemies, including James Comey, Letitia James, the New York City Attorney General. And now, word on the street is that James Comey is about to be indicted in the coming days.
Important to know, though, that the U.S. attorney, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in this office, Eric Siebert, was essentially forced out last week, in part because he was refusing to bring these cases. We're told that he was opposed to prosecuting both James and Comey on these grounds, and he's out now. And the new U.S. attorney is a former Donald Trump defense lawyer who's never prosecuted a case. So that's the state of affairs.
What is her legal expertise, or her legal arena?
She's a lawyer. She was a lawyer in the White House for a while. She represented Donald Trump in the Mar-a-Lago investigation. She's not a prosecutor.
Lindsey Howe.
So, what is this new U.S. attorney's credentials, which was the question? Oh, well, she's a lawyer, but not a prosecutor. Has no prosecutorial experience whatsoever. But let me put up the picture again of her, just so you see. Anything in common? You think there's any reason why she was chosen by Trump as a new U.S. attorney with no experience whatsoever? Anyway.
So that's the state of the case.
That's the state of where we are right now, which is, in the upside down, or like I like to say, in hell. So I close out today, friends, with going back to the beginning, which was Jimmy Kimmel's return. And one of the guests that he had on, one of the voices that he brought to the fore, with all of the eyeballs that were watching him, was Governor Gavin Newsom. We know I have criticized Gavin on this show and on other shows, but when you start to do right, I will lift you up again. And Gavin Newsom, over the last several months, has come out of his MAGA-fied stupor where he thought that he could platform people like, Steve Bannon and others in a place to find common ground, and realized that that wasn't going to stop Donald Trump from, unleashing the National Guard in the state of California. So he has since made an about face, and he has been using his platform and his social media savvy team to troll Donald Trump, but also to make very clear points about the danger that this country is in. And so he used his opportunity with all of these now 15 million eyeballs that have watched the Jimmy Kimmel show to offer a stark warning to the American people and to the world.
That we will not have an election in 2028. I really mean that. And the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly to how serious this moment is.
I mean, Gavin Newsom is saying what I've been saying, what Wajahat's been saying, what many people have been saying for 10 years. Is that if Donald Trump were able to get power again, he was never going to leave. That I do not believe that we are going to have midterm elections. That I do not believe we are going to have presidential elections. I believe that Donald Trump is stationing the National Guard and the military, putting them in place, waiting for the moment to strike when he can declare martial law. I believe that Donald Trump has no intention of allowing democracy to persist in this country. And if you need any more evidence, just, again, run back the tapes of what's been happening over the 9 months. The attacks on college campuses, the attacks on free speech, the attacks on thinking, the attacks on our public health, the weaponizing of our government against political enemies, And now with more distraction, which is that going to turn the attention of the media to a bullshit trumped up indictment on James Comey and Tish James to try and drag their character through the mud. Also that we forget that guess what? Da-da-da-da. You don't want us talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the fact that you are all over those files. So, folks, every time that Donald Trump offers up distractions, ask yourself, what should I really be paying attention to? What are they trying to distract me from? And then turn your attention there. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. Before I get out of here, please do take a moment to hit that bell. Like, comment, and subscribe. I am just a few followers now away from 32,000. I am trying to get to 40,000 by the end of this year. So comment, share, like, repost, help the algorithm fairies get me to that 40,000. I also, this is independent media, folks. And because I've said over and over again, corporate mainstream media, not to be trusted. They're not even delivering you the stories that you deserve and that we need to be paying attention to. So if you have a few bucks, please do consider dropping some in the collection plate of Damnation of the Danielle Moodie Show. Every single dollar you offer up goes to helping me create the kind of content you deserve. But do know that I will never put my content behind a paywall because I believe that that is where critical thinking goes to die alongside what's left of our democracy. So I want to thank Design Chick, Star Child, Susan, as always, Progressive African American, Michael, Trail Goat, Melissa, for your donations today. I appreciate you. I appreciate every single dollar. Folks, and if you are watching this on Substack on the Damn Digest, again, no part of my content will go behind a paywall, but if you have the ability to become a paid subscriber, do consider doing so. I will be back here, dear friends, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Do check out, if you have not already, the midweek check-in that I do with Jared Yates Sexton, which is up now on the Damn Digest, and the Democracy-ish midweek check-in will be up there a little bit later. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Be well.